Good day everyone, I'm David, moderator for this webinar. I welcome everyone for today's webinar, Exempt Employees Understanding and Mastering the Changes for 2023 and Beyond. I would now like to introduce our presenter for today, Vicky M. Lambert. Vicky M. Lambert, CPP, is President and Academic Director of the Payroll Advisor, a firm specializing in payroll education and training. I would now like to hand over the floor to the speaker. Over to you, Vicky.
So what I was talking about, the focus here is what you mean? Okay. Well, basically what I had said is that we have to define, first of all, what is exempt, which we've done, okay? Because you have to understand that exempt means exempt from minimum wage and overtime. Then we have to talk about who is exempt and who is not. So we have to identify them. And we have 4 categories that we have to work with, which we've talked about the 4 categories. We have to look at the different rule changes. We have to look at the salary level. Are you paying them enough per week? And we look at what we call job duties. And then, of course, we talked just at the last about where do the states stand. So that's our first question, overtime. So if I am exempt, what am I exempt from? Well, let's look at, first of all, what the rules are. Every employee must be paid for their hours worked. So what are exempt employees? Well, they exempt from minimum wage and overtime. So why do we call it white collar? Well, as silly as it sounds, that's actually the color of their collar. Then there has to be, well, shall we say, a blue collar worker. Blue collar is that rank and file working guy. Then the other one was going to be the first responders. They are not going to be automatically pulled in to exempt. We have 3 tests for exemption. Now, these are pass-fail, and you must have all 3. You cannot get 2 out of the 3. There is no such thing as a C. Am I paying them correctly to maintain that exempt status? So let's look at the first one, which is the job duties test. Now, when you have a job duties test, you have to be doing the work that the employee would do. They are management. They also must supervise 2 or more employees. So it must always be 2 humans at least. You have to have a primary duty. And a primary duty means this is the most important duty that I'm going to do. Will satisfy that requirement. It's easier to prove they're exempt if they do at least do 50% of their work as exempt work. So when we look at the primary duty factors, we look at basically what is the importance of the exempt duties versus the other exempt duties and non-exempt duties? What I'm spending my time on. So, and they do look at concurrent duties. So you have to make sure that your concurrent duties do not overpower your exempt duties. What are management duties? But I must do these work, what we call customarily and regularly. When I say department or subdivision, it must be recognized as one. So if you do not supervise 2 or more full-time employees, you will never, ever be exempt under the executive because they have to only have 1 supervisor. You will meet that staffing requirement as exempt. If you do not, you cannot be exempt under executive. Now, let's look at one that doesn't match. Now let's look at the administrative duties because it's just clear as mud as to what these mean. Basically exercise independent judgment and discretion. First of all, the management or general business operations. That's the work performed by the employee itself. So who would qualify in this area? Well, they give us quite a bit of areas. Human resource is exempt under administrative. Now, there are other exempt positions that we can sneak in here. All right, now let's go on to our next category, which is either learned or learned. Well, the learned is the one who has the diploma. So that's what they say. You have to have what we call a prolonged course of specialized intellectual instruction. So looking at what they say that we could do, okay, it could be lawyers, teachers, accountants, pharmacists, engineers, actuaries, chefs, exempt employees for professional, and I'm doing it in a field that is recognized as an artistic endeavor. So what are these? Well, music. All right, now let's look at the final one, which is outside sales. Now, this one is not really too difficult. They have to be outside selling, and there's no salary level rule here. Anything that is going to take what you make and get money for it. But it's big that it be away from the employer's place of business. Now, the other problem that we have in this area is people saying, well, they are outside selling because they're not on my premises, they're from their home. All right, what about drivers who sell? So I would compare my driver's duties to the salespeople's duties. They are looking, okay, at changing the salary level. That's what Obama wanted. He said the 20th percentile. And it doesn't have to be paid per week. The other areas that had to be addressed. So what is this non-discretionary bonus? This is a bonus that is tied to performance. So you can pay somebody hourly or daily or on a shift basis. You can be paid on a fee basis, but we don't look for salary levels. Now, the total annual compensation would include commissions, non-discretionary bonuses. This is the one where payroll comes in. The salary basis test. It means that I get the same amount week in and week out, regardless of quality or quantity of work. So can I deduct from this salary? As long as that employee is ready, willing, and able to work, you have to pay them, even if you have no work for them to do or they can't get into the office. The employee must be paid their full salary unless we deduct for a full day increment. So we are allowed to deduct in partial day absences. Rules that allow us to dock coming and going and family and medical leave. Now, you must have a clearly communicated policy, okay, and you may end up with lawsuits. How do I know if what I'm doing is going to violate these no docking rules? I can even pay you on an hourly or shift basis. So what would happen if I had an improper deduction? What is the actual practice? You know, the employee came to me with short 2 hours, we wrote him a check. You deduct them for a minor illness when you don't have sick pay or vacation pay. So what they look at is the actual practice. So this is where we get our presidential countdown. We've covered everything today. All right, well, I want to basically say good luck on handling your exempt employees in 2023, and I'm going to turn it back over.
Thank you, Vicky. That does conclude the session for today. Thank you everyone for participating. You may all disconnect now. Have a great day ahead.